had a significant economic impact on the area. Everyone knew about Hawthorne. And to this day, I occasionally run across someone who worked for a contractor or subcontractor during those early construction days, and they all remark what a great development it is. I remember one of my favorite stories regarding finances in those early days. And I've told this before, and my college, those who've heard it, it sticks with me. That wasn't it. I've heard that some people want to shoot me on occasion. One day I was in my office, and Arnold Ross, who was the president of the company at that time, Amos Henley, who was the executive vice president, Jim Crosley, who was in charge of sales, and I were in a meeting. They were discussing plans to build a number of new model homes and other projects in the community. As they talked, I made some rough calculations of the cost for each item. When they finished, I added up the cost estimates and told them we didn't have the cash to do these projects. Without missing a beat, Arnold Ross turned to me and said, "Call George in Philadelphia, tell him you need $1 million." I was absolutely dumbfounded and didn't say anything more in that meeting. Here I was, a young man. If I had $25 in my pocket, I thought I was doing well. And I was to call on the telephone and ask somebody I really didn't know for $1 million. I agonized over that phone call for a number of days. I prepared all kinds of financial schedules, and then I got up the nerve to make the call. I called George and probably spent 10 to 15 minutes reviewing the schedules I had prepared. When I finished, I told him, "It looks like that we're going to need about $1 million, George." And the first words out of his mouth were, "Are you sure that's going to be enough?" I almost dropped the phone. I'll always remember that story because they were wildly successful. They had put many millions of dollars into Hawthorne, and to ask for another million was no big deal to them. So maybe I should ask for two. The early years at Hawthorne were busy, but also fun, as we saw the finest retirement living community take place. I clearly remember March 7, 1974, the day Hawthorne was dedicated. In fact, I still have a paperweight on my desk, which is commemorative of that event. It was a long parade. It began on the other side of the bridge. Residents with their golf carts and bicycles all decorated. There were high school bands that were invited. There were Leesburg, Lake County, and Florida elected officials that marched in the parade and participated there, as well as the presidents of ADRP, NRTA, and Colonial Penn. In fact, there were lots of executives here. It was a grand day. A few months ago, Arnold Ross visited me for a short time, and I brought him down here to the clubhouse auditorium to look at it. We had just finished maintenance day, so it was a great time to bring a visitor in. But he stepped in here, and he looked around, and suddenly the memories of that day flooded back to him. They meant a lot to him in those days because he had a real part in making this a community. It is important for us to know today that what began as Hawthorne in the early 70s was historic in retirement living. The early dreams of building 5 communities have faded, and the relationship between ADRP and Colonial Penn has been dissolved. But the dream of building Hawthorne is a reality, and it lives on today. The community is as alive and active today as it was in those early days. There are more activities today, and the community is even more complete than it was in the 70s. So, happy 35th birthday, Hawthorne, and may you have many more. Thank you.
Tap Dance Group has brought us the gift of performance in recognition of our Founders Day celebration. This group of ladies diligently put together routines under the directorship of Margie Hershinger. So please help me welcome the tap dancers Elizabeth Childs, Cheney Pereira, and Margie Hershinger.
made major contributions to the development of the park. Families that became residents from October of 1973 through December 31st of that year are called trailblazers. Many of these trailblazers became the hearts and souls of the volunteer programs that built this community. Sadly, there are no longer any trailblazers living here at Hawthorne. However, many of today's residents are children, siblings, or friends of this group. Would you please stand now if you came here because of a trailblazer, a 1973 resident? The next group of residents in the early years were known as pioneers. These settlers came between January 1st of 1997 and December 15th of 1983. Would any pioneers please stand if you came between those years? Charles is correcting me at 77. I can't even keep a track myself. Okay. We know family connections are very strong in our community. It is a significant factor to the feeling of unity within the park. Would you please stand if right now you have a relative in the park? I guess that proves that point, doesn't it? It is an amazing fact that Hawthorne has always enjoyed family and friend relationships. This has greatly assisted the ongoing sales of homes. Turning our thoughts to sales of homes allows us to recognize an exceptional man who was instrumental in selling many of the early homes in Hawthorne in the 70s. Orland Clark was a significant salesman in our park's early history. He must have truly believed in the park's vision, for now he resides at 161 Azalea Trail with his wife Virginia. Orland has agreed to share a few memories of early times. Please welcome Orland Clark to say a few words.
First thing I'd like to do is congratulate each and every one of you here. You're very intelligent people. They work like this and grow like it did. I had the honor of being the first salesman they hired here. I think it was like middle of 71. And I was here to 79. And in fact, on this same spot, I watched this building being built. And the fact that the roof on all these buildings are pure Brazilian copper. And I spent 2 years during World War II in Brazil, so this is kind of novel. And I watched them hand form these things all down along here. It was a fun thing. I still love it. It was great. One of the people that I had the privilege of helping, and I like to say help rather than sell. I thought it was, I helped a lot of people. I loved that. That was the greatest part of this. And got paid for it. That was good too. But anyhow, this person is named Maslin. He owned Maslin Carpet Company, I think somewhere in the New England states. He came here and had a home built. And it's the reason he had a home built here, because he's told me privately that he could have bought any place, anywhere. He had the money to do it. But the safety purpose here, the fact that they had the 2-button emergency system, was something that he really thought was great. He had a terminal condition. He knew that he wouldn't live for over a year. He said he wanted his wife to be safe. This is the only place that, and he had checked all over Florida. Couldn't find anything that had the emergency system, the emergency people. And that was the reason he bought in here. That impressed me so much, you know, that's one of the reasons I bought in here. If anything happens to me, my wife